Hello everybody, it's Real Shade here from Project Lab. Once again, we're, a little bit late. We had hiccups yesterday, technical issues, but we're here today to supply you with some lovely reviews of a Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. And isn't it a wonderful life having myself here, Jamie, amateur movie buff, critic, reviewer, Darren, world-renowned movie star, hidden in the box at the bottom left-hand side, and Derry, our fantastic resident artist. Look at the phantasmic picture that's going to be produced tonight in front of your eyes. It's all live. Today we're talking about It's a Wonderful Life. And last week we did tell you to have a look at it yourself. In preparation, it is one of the best Christmas films around. As you'll probably notice, last week I did say, don't you dare watch the coloured version, because the coloured version sucks. But then I thought, our background is black and white, and with a black and white film in the middle, I got the coloured version, and this is simply because of it's a talking point, okay? Now we can compare. We can all objectively... I've never seen the coloured version either. It's the only one that I had to hand. So let's have a chat about it. And
is there a difference?
There you go. There's a difference. There's a difference. Like
in the story, in the edit, is there a difference? Okay.
No. There's no difference in edit. It's all... The best thing about this, like, it's technically a marvel. It's a, done reel by reel, basically, all coloured in and everything. It's one of those amazing pictures. But anyway... You'll see as we go along that it does make a difference to the way that the movie is viewed. But, comment away. We love to hear your feedback. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch today. We'll be having each act. And we're doing something a little bit different this week. We'll be putting up at the top, kind of middle left-hand side, the act that we're talking about. And that'll move us along. And feel free to contribute. We want to hear what you have to say. And maybe movie suggestions. This week it's my pick. So, It's a Wonderful Life. I'll read a little bit here from IMDb. It's always a great inspiration. They give us a little bit more than last time than The Craft. So, I'll give just a little starting of it. Because they basically tell the movie in this. George Bailey has spent his entire life giving himself to the people of Bedford Falls. He has always longed to travel, but never had the opportunity in order to prevent Rich Skinflint... That's a cool word. Skinflint, Mr. Potter, from taking over the entire town. And then there's a lot more. Jimmy Stewart plays George Bailey. Donna Reed is Mary Hatch. Lionel Barrymore is Mr. Potter, who I think was like a perfect evil capitalist in this film. We have Thomas Mitchell as Uncle Billy, who is clearly a bit nuts. And then we have Henry Travers as Clarence, who is fantastic. So, Let's get into maybe just a quick impression about the movie, okay? Little subject. I picked this movie because it's obviously Christmas time, and Jimmy Stewart is a great actor. I believe, Darren, you've never seen a movie with Jimmy Stewart in it before, no?
No, I definitely have seen... I've definitely seen bits of movies he's been in. I've never seen a full movie, I don't think. Like years ago, my dad would be into these movies. My dad would kill me if I told him I never watched this movie before. Like, he'd kill me stone dead. But, like, I've seen... like, my mom's favourite movie is Rear Window with Jimmy Stewart. Or James Stewart, the latest person. James. But, like... Yeah, James Stewart, yeah. To the classy guy. But, man, what an actor. Like...
What did you think of this film in terms of it being a Christmas film? You said before we started streaming that it doesn't, on the outset, it doesn't seem like one.
You know what? Just from hearing people talk about this movie, I knew it was a Christmas movie. But when I watched it, like the first hour and a half, I wouldn't have thought it was a Christmas movie. Like I just thought it was a movie about like, can we just say, poor George Bailey? Jesus, man, I feel so sorry for that. From when he's a child and he gets like slapped in the ear, I was like nearly cried a lump in my throat when he got slapped. I was, geez, that poor child. But I I actually want to watch more movies with Jimmy Stewart. Like I'm not even saying it now. I really, really want to watch more movies with him, and I'm actually going to watch Rear Window tonight. Um, just it's like it kills me that I can't think of an actor nowadays that would make me want to watch all these movies like
Exactly, and it's a kind of he's a one of a kind actor. He's like a classical
that. He is.
actor, and you should read about him in the military in World War II. He's fantastic.
I did.
Derry, what in your opinion? Did you watch this with your kids?
I did not. I watched this alone, and I'm glad I did because I was a blubbering mess.
Did you do like the sobbing?
It was destroyed. I saw it before, but I probably hadn't seen it in about 15 years probably.
Mm-hmm.
It hit different this time, definitely. I think it actually says a lot about mental health, which is a big thing for 70 odd years ago.
Yeah.
So I think like Darren was saying, it didn't really hit you as a Christmas movie. I think it's a movie that is relevant all year round and even 70 years later.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
And I think that what we were speaking about last week about that feeling of Christmas. It from the out. If you're kind of looking at the film from the outside, it really doesn't have a Christmassy feel. There's very little Christmas in this.
Yeah.
Yet it gives the feeling of Christmas all the time. It ends on one of those big bangs.
Yeah, so, it's the classic thing of having the Christmas spirit fixes everything sort of coming in.
Yes, and there's a few nice, cool history bits that we'll have a chat about at the end of it. If anybody knows about this historically, feel free to chime in. But let's start with the Act 1. Ba-bum! Act 1. And for all of the viewers at home, there's a little graphic up at the top left-hand side that Derry designed. It's gorgeous. Look, Act 1. So, Act 1. So, as we see, a lovely title screen. The title screen. One of my favourites. We see...
It's like where I come in every week and start giving out.
I kind of have a thing for title screens, They do something for me.
I was expecting, because it being an old movie, I was expecting a lot longer, so I was surprised by this.
Yeah, it's not like a Cleopatra one where it goes on and on. Like the title screen, it's actually called it like an overture, like the overture at the start, and it goes on for the length of like a 5-minute song, and then you're into the movie. You're like, oh, everybody's coming into that's when everybody's coming into the theater. Everybody should be kind of sat down by now, it's a long movie.
It kind of reminded me of an animated movie. So by the end, when they were whoever was pulling these pages back, I expected to open to like a Walt Disney coloring book, like a Mickey Mouse book on. I expected it to be kind of like that.
Well, that's a cool thing about it. It's it gives that surreal story told atmosphere straight away at the start. And that's the kind of cool thing about Christmas. Is that it has that magical feel, and maybe we can call it like a Disney feel, basically. So we start off with a lovely credit roll, and then the opening shot to Bedford Falls.
Bedford Falls.
We see it goes up and straight up into the. I think there's a praying for George. So we actually see like around the town. We have some lovely shots. This is why I kind of like maybe illustrating from the colored version, because the galaxies in this look proper cool. Yeah. It's a very unusual start to a movie. It gets you set up for it being an old style. This is a classic Christmas tale, and at this time, really, the introduction of film. This film was done in 1946. So literally the year after World War II had ended, and Jimmy Stewart was in the Air Corps. So he pretty much had just come back from World War II and did this film that was a very depressing film, and really, like you said, about mental health. What a perfect time to do it after a massive war, financial crashes, really finances in general at the time were a major discussion. So it feels at the start it kind of brings you, okay, we're into this unrealistic version of the world. Society has already been broken down after a massive world war, and then we're into this holly jolly street of gorgeous buildings with snow around, and then straight up, like you said, Darren, into the atmosphere. What? Like, you haven't seen this before, Darren. So was that a little bit of an unexpected, like, why are we in the galaxy? Why is there people talking?
Forever I've seen stills of this movie, and I've seen tiny little bits of it. Like, you see him, you know, the whole part he's pulling on the moon, you know, he's talking to her, and it's all like he's running. The famous scene where he's running through the snow. And when I saw this happening, I didn't know this is the same movie. I was like,
the galaxy is like.
Yeah, you know, when like everything I've seen of the movie is really Christmassy, and, you know, really like it old. Because what's weird is, and now I'm only thinking of it, everything I've ever seen of this movie, bar when I watched it, was in black and white. So everything I've seen was black and white, and I never copped the fact that it was a color I was watching. Jesus, I'm really colorblind.
Did you see the color version, or like when we actually?
I never watched the black and white version. But
okay.
When it went up into the sky and things started talking, I was like, what the fuck is happening? This is definitely not It's a Wonderful Life. But then when he started talking, then when it came down to George Bailey as a child, I was like, oh, it is. Right. What? And do you know what I did more than that? It really intrigued me to watch it. Really intrigued me.
That's what it's a cool concept. And you know what the whole entire movie reminds me of? A Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
You know, if you've ever seen the old with Rod Steiner, I think Rod Steiner, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe.
You know,
but anyway,
it sounds.
So he's actually a guy that came back from the war and went in to create the Twilight Zone because he had like PTSD. The only way that he could actually explain or work through those mental blocks that he was having is to go through this avenue of weird and crazy things that could possibly happen out there in the universe, or that what if concept effectively. And I feel like this film kind of went that way of having what if it doesn't even feel Christian. It does, like, they speak a lot of Christianity throughout the whole entire film, but this isn't God. This is like a galaxy guy called Joseph, and then there's another, I can't remember the name of the other galaxy, but it's like two people talking to each other.
Clarence is his guardian. Is Clarence his guardian?
Clarence
angel?
is the guardian agent.
Yeah.
So like, are these angels talking to each other or what? Like, they again, it's just nicely set up in so far as it's.
I think what Joseph and your man are talking about. Clarence, like, send him down. He's going to try and win his wings. Trying to win his wings. Like, you know, I don't get that.
Well, he had to earn his wings. He earns them. Like, I think that's kind of a common trope. I don't know, in terms of in angels. Earning their wings effectively, because that's how pilots, they earn their wings, you know, that kind of way.
Okay. I just agree with you.
What's that?
I wanted to start that kind of idea
to earn your wings.
Yeah. Historically. Digressing.
Yeah. Well, again, it's something, you know, it's a common saying, so it makes sense. I don't know if it started with pilots or angels, but hey, well, angels are older, so they'd probably get in there quicker. But this is the kind of setup for, okay, Clarence, like, effectively the movie has already started. We're already in current time, and this is when George is going through his anguish. But to catch the viewer up to speed, as well as Clarence, the guardian angel, we see a kind of a flashback of George's life, and that's actually, for a good part of it, that, well, it's a fantastically written, it's fantastically done, and it reminds me a lot of if you've ever seen Citizen Kane. You know, just a nicer version of Citizen Kane. So you know, it's a nice setup because it basically puts us in the shoes of Clarence. You know, it kind of makes us empathize with this character that we've never seen before, and the full, probably, I don't know, I haven't it written down here, but the full thing is basically, you know, the full act of the film, first act of the film, is building up a character, explaining this character. It actually has no real connection to the main story other than this character is really empathetic, and actions have massive consequences. Reminds like a Bethesda game. If it was like, hey, this is the new Skyrim, you play as George Bailey, and he has to make some really tough decisions.
No, just, you know, from the very first time you see him, because obviously after you see it goes right into from whatever heaven or whatever up in the atmosphere, it goes right into him as a child, and the first thing you see him doing is saving his brother, and like, immediately after he saves him, he's like, George lost his hearing in one ear. I'm like, Jesus Christ, lads. And then he's like, obviously saving your man from he helps out his boss. But I love all the kid actors in this, man. The two girls on the stools are brilliant as well.
Well,
Dude,
the guy
she's
that
so
plays
sassy.
George is some handsome looking child. Those eyebrows. That's an acting child right there. If you had like a picture or a definition of the actor child, it's like this guy, he looks like manlier, tougher than I do. But I think they got some really good actors for this. Like the
Exactly
female,
the
like the little girl actors in it are brilliant as well.
Brilliant.
You like every boy. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? Oh my god, they're the best. But this is
that was another thing, is it's another kind of modernish attitude.
Yeah,
It's like, like, you know, it wasn't the girls have to be prim and proper and everything. It was just like, so this is life.
You will find a lot of times, because my interest kind of lies in films in the early 20th century. You will find a lot of times, if you watch things like the Marx Brothers and everything, their sensibility wasn't that strict.
Yeah.
And especially because this is America. This isn't British. You know,
Yes,
this isn't, this is New York. Well, even European. You look at the Italians and the French and the Spanish at this time, they were pretty racy. You know, but ultimately, it's America. So, you know, like this was the time when on film you couldn't have two people sleeping in the same bed together. So even in shots of them in their own bedroom, you would have to have two single beds.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even you couldn't even imply the fact that they were sleeping together as a married couple. And still in America that was happening. But yeah, like you said, their idea of liberty and social differences is a lot more easier to spot in their films than it is like English films at the time.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and this is like a really American film though, if you think about it. Like they're all sleighing on Christmas, and then this is where George effectively. Well, that's it. It's the American. Actually, we'll come to this. This was a very controversial movie at the time. And just think about what was happening politically. I'll just put it that way. So we move on, and we see George basically saving. Actually, I should say by this stage that Clarence is told that George is, like, he's asking why he's going to be looking after George. And it's explained to him that he throws away God's greatest gift, which is obviously his life. So this is a big topic that, like, it's straight away we're launching into a big topic, and we're taught about it in this fantasy way, but fantastical way. You know, at the time, a lot of people still believed in religion and were God-fearing, let's say. So this is kind of like a big topic, suicide, framed in this biblical sense, and then you throw Christmas in there. You know, and I think Jimmy Stewart is probably one of the only actors that could actually pull this off really well, to have those two dynamics.
Yeah,
yep.
But he's very, like, he comes off as a really sympathetic, because I watched interviews with him since, and like even when he got older, and he's like a really sympathetic guy. He seems like a really, obviously I didn't know him, but he seems like a really genuine guy. When he talks, and man, I've watched a lot of interviews with him recently, and I'm kind of just getting a little bit obsessed by him. I liked him so much in the movie.
He writes he actually writes a poem about his horse, I believe. Is it his horse? Look it up. And it's so sad. He's a very sad person.
See, like, even what you just say, he wrote a poem about a horse. You know, it not be called My Lovely Horse.
My lovely, lovely. Oh, will that get us strucken? Is that a DMCA strike? My lovely, lovely, lovely horse. So
no, he's just like, I rarely say things are perfectly cast, but even though I've only watched this movie recently, this is perfectly cast.
If you think about this film, though, how does it grip you emotionally with this character that you empathize with? He is a good soul, and at the end of it, he's literally upending. He's like, imagine like a bad dad. He becomes that kind of a character by the end of it. You know, he's little bits of tantrums. Like, he's a bit of a tantrum later on, and Mary is just like trying to cheer him up, and he's a bit of an asshole. Like he's an absolute bit of an asshole. So he's a complex character that you want to succeed regardless of these kind of downfalls. But at the start, it's setting you up for this nice little bit that he saves his brother. So they're sledding down this hill. His brother sleds down and slides past and goes, "Help!" And then Dutch kind of crushes in beneath the ice and is at threat of basically freezing to death. And this is where George jumps in to save him, because, you know, that's George. And it's like the flashbacks are basically all of these events in time where George has done something honorable or moral.
Yeah.
I think you really get the sense that he's just a really good kid throughout. And you see, especially with his encounter in the pharmacy, you're just like, that poor kid. Immediately your heart goes out to him because you know deep down he's just so kind and thoughtful.
That's a fantastic story.
Right from the beginning.
But even good acting, like when the line that got me is when he said, when your man slapped him 8 times and he said, "Please don't hit me on my bad ear again." I was like, oh my God. I was like, geez.
I know you're upset. Like, he forgave him straight away. And I'm like,
wow. Even the fucking blood in his ear. Like the blood driving down his ear, and I was like, that's like fucking, I feel like it's very hard to get sympathy that quickly out of a character. Holy shit, like that was fucking, my heart went out that a child.
Well, that's the thing, and it's even before that we see that George is a kind of a really logical character. The fact that he goes to work, he's really happy at work, and then his boss comes out and is a complete asshole to him. He's like, "Shut up, I don't pay you to be a canary." We do get an introduction to like the promiscuous one, let's say, of the town at the time, and then Mary, which is like George's love interest throughout the film, and we see that he's kind of serving up ice cream. He works in kind of a drugstore, but at the time they serve Coca-Cola and ice cream and everything. I like the kid characters in it. I think the kid characters actually make it really good. And they feel adult as well. You know, they have that kind of...
sitting on the bar stools, chilling out, being sassy.
Yeah. We see the note that the drugstore owner, or George's boss effectively, he's lost his son. He's died of, I think, pneumonia. And that's why the drugstore owner is
being a dick.
Being a bit of a sad bastard. What I like about it is, so we get to the point where we see the shop owner filling the tablets, like filling an order of tablets basically for a customer or whatever the case is, and George sees that he's filling it with poison instead of it being anything else. That was a bit cool. I like that bit where it's like, okay, where the character is presented with a dilemma. How is he going to fix this one? What would you have done in that position?
Oh Jesus! Are you asking me or?
I'm asking you, Darren.
God, man, depends how much I like the person.
Who are you delivering it to, huh? So in that,
I thought it was interesting that he went straight to his dad.
Yeah,
this is cool. So we see we actually see a little sign that says, "Ask Dad, he knows."
Oh yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Very good.
So he's like,
is that Clarence like helping him out and showing him the way, or what do you think?
Well, technically this is beforehand. The guy kind of looks a little bit like Clarence, come to think of it. But
uncle.
His uncle. Yeah, his crazy uncle with all his squirrel friends.
Yeah.
So, but the drugstore owner basically, he tells George to get out and deliver the order, and George has this kind of moment of conscience. That's what I'm talking about. Conscience.
Emotion
So,
of consciousness. No. Let's go with what you said.
conscience. He runs to his dad's, who we find out, and it's a cool introduction, that his dad is the owner of basically a credit union, or what we would call a credit union. It's like a building society. Effectively, it gives loans out to everybody in the town. It's old school. He's having an argument with Mr. Potter, and Mr. Potter is a complete asshole, and he's like the atypical capitalist in the town. He wears like the little pork pie hat with the the little vest and everything, and we see that his dad is obviously a nice person as well.
His dad, what do you call his dad? You're the biggest man in town. I'm like, no, you're not.
I'm sure there's people bigger than you.
I get what he's saying. I get it. But your man is like a complete caricature of a total capitalist. Your man is like, he reminds me, he should have been up in the rafters, like the man in the Muppets, those two guys.
So, what I like about this point, so we've already gotten to the point where we're kind of introduced to, we've gotten a good understanding of George, and there is a cool part in it where he's serving the ice cream, and Mary asks for some vanilla ice cream or whatever, and he goes, what about coconut and whatever, and she's like, coconut? It's like, yeah, it comes from really far away, and he starts talking about these places, Fiji, and whatever. It reminded me of The Truman Show. This film reminded me of The Truman Show in a lot of ways. The fact that he wanted to leave, he couldn't leave, people were trying to stop him from actually going. He literally never leaves the town, and he's stuck there the whole entire time. And I think that link between Fiji, I was like, were the makers of Truman Show also watching this and kind of going, what if he was trapped there? So it's like that Twilight Zone again.
You're going to end up where you're going to end up, and that's just the way things work out. And no matter what, like what you just said, no matter what happened to him, like he was obviously supposed to leave for college. He got delayed going to college in the first place, then he got straight away. Like everything was intervening from getting him to where he wanted to go. But where he obviously where he ended up is where he was supposed to end up. Well, and now the review's over. Thank you.
You know what it actually reminds me of is The Nightmare Before Christmas. In that way, the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
He wanted to be out there. He struggled as much as he possibly could. He felt like there was like something missing inside of him, and then he actually found that he staying in his small little town, being a small little what was like credit union owner, building society owner. Yeah, and I think it's a nice story. I think it's presented really nicely in this, but it's still one of those films where you think, it's not a story of adventure and go get him, and you have more potential than just this crappy place that you're living in. It's like, resist all you want. It doesn't matter. You're going to be stuck here anyway. And who doesn't feel like that?
Nowadays doesn't have. It has an actual story.
It has an actual point to make.
Yeah.
And a lot of films now don't have a lot of points to make, and if they do,
CGI, dude. It was amazing to see something without CGI for once. It was so good to see.
There is a bit of practical effects in this. I don't know. Did you spot that, Darren?
Is that the planet?
No, because that's not. That's technically, that's practical effects, but that's obviously done with like a black sheet, and they've poked holes through it, and then, and again, it's in black and white. It doesn't need to be anything, and they've just carved out like a galaxy.
Is when they're pulling back at the start from the house. Is the house all CGI? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's not CGI.
I do remember.
It's a practical effect.
CGI, not CGI.
I will get to it anyway. It's done very well. It's a camera trick. If you want to be, it's a special effect.
I can't think of it.
It's later in the movie. So we get an introduction to the main villain of the story, which is Mr. Potter. Excuse yourself, spreading the goof. So we get our introduction to the villain, and I found it funny that like George is 10 years old in this, and then suddenly Mr. Potter doesn't really look that old. Doesn't look that old when
He's older.
Like George is like what, 40 years of age?
Yeah.
And Mr. Potter looks just as old, and he's still in a crappy little wheelchair.
Like no one ages in this movie, bar James
George.
Stewart.
Well, actually, yeah.
Well, like even like no, Mr. Potter and your man. What's his name? What's his name? Oh my God, the guy he worked for, Grover.
Who?
Is it Grover?
Who?
The pharmacy guy.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the main name of the guy. Yeah, anyway, the pharmacy owner guy, the drugstore owner.
But he looked ancient at the start of it, and then like later on, he's still the fucking same age. I'm like,
yeah. So,
what's going on?
Maybe it's like something in the Matrix. Like maybe George is stuck in the Matrix. Everybody else, like his dad dies, his mother still looks as old as she always has. Yeah. So trippy Matrix.
I don't know.
We get the fact that George kind of relies on his father effectively, and he relies on that family with influence. And even though his dad doesn't give him the correct answer, he still knows essentially what to do. He's given him a general kind of, don't worry, everything will be fine, and you can take care of yourself, and go get him, sort of whatever. And the son then goes back to the drugstore owner and basically tells him that, by the way, that you fill those prescriptions with like fucking cyanide or whatever, like
poison, yeah,
with poison.
But you remember the drugstore owner's son died, didn't he? That's why he's
he dies. He dies of pneumonia. Mm-hmm. Like that's this is the thing. Yeah. It adds cool context to it by this stage that George sees the note, that his son has died from pneumonia, and he goes back to check on him, and this is where he sees him filling the wrong prescription with poison. So he's obviously has a heart at this point. He cares about his boss's well-being, and then his boss, when he comes back to reveal that he hasn't delivered it because the boss is on the phone, and he's like, I haven't gotten my prescription yet from the other guy, and the boss is like, it'll be along soon. He's obviously pissed drunk, and then he decides to absolutely slap George at the side of the head, gives him some clattering, blood streaming down his ear. I was like, holy shit, dude, what the fuck did you do? He basically broke his eardrum again. Lovely little child abuse. Why not around this time of year?
But that's when he says to your man, please don't hit me in my bad ear. And I'm like, that's fucking so sad. It's like, a sad one, isn't it? He doesn't get... Yeah, but he doesn't get bed up at home, clearly, because his dad is a nice guy. You know what I mean? But like the fact that his boss is like, this was just a common thing that your boss used to beat the fucking shit out of you.
No, but I don't think it's a common thing, to be honest with you, because George has gone into work and he's like whistling and he's having a good time and he feels relaxed. This feels like an odd situation for George to be in, that kind of way. He doesn't seem like he's in a bad background. Like, for all intents and purposes, the town loves George and it knows him basically by the end. It's hey, there's George. So I think this is, again, you just see the empathy. He's realized that his boss's son has died tragically, and what is it? Maybe World War One? Is it like one of those kind of things? I think he's died in World War One of pneumonia.
Yeah, World War. You'd be right.
And what? George is like, 10, 11, maybe 12 at this point, and he has the sense of responsibility to do the right thing, even though he knows he doesn't know the full answer. He goes to his dad. He actually goes back to the owner, and like you said, Darren, he's like, please don't hit me. At least, basically, if you're going to hit me, don't hit me in the sore ear. Hit me down in the chest.
I know why you're doing this.
Exactly.
And I think from that point on, you're sold with this kid. Like, you're yeah.
I've been rooting for him.
Rootin', tootin', Jimmy Stootin'. So, I love it. Straight away, we're kind of gone into not knowing anything about this random child to two scenes where he's basically given up he doesn't think about himself once at all in any of these, except for his little bit of ambition that he wants to travel. And that's the kind of running thread throughout the movie. And you see the character and his ambition, and he just never gets to fulfill it at all. He gets so many chances to do so, and yet he gets stopped at every opportunity because the other thing we saw at the start of the movie, because he is like, straight away we see that George is kind of like, he's lost hearing in one of his ears by saving his brother. He's basically gotten beaten around by not volunteering, not giving poison to one of the customers and killing them.
It's his sense of responsibility that actually holds him back.
But that's what responsibility really is. It's about doing something not because you want to do it, but because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
What you're basically saying, Jamie, is with great power comes great responsibility.
And that's the point. That's really the point of that, isn't it? Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man, not because he wants to be a popular, kick-ass, bully skater dude. He does it because it's the right thing to do. Except for in the third one, where I hope he dies. So, we even get to the point where we see George wanting to give up his own life, basically, by the end of it, to give a positive effect to somebody else. So on and on and on, there's always a trade-off, and George, regardless of what is happening to him, will always trade off even his life, to the benefit of somebody else. Love it. We're straight in then to the next bit, where George is popping in to buy a suitcase. And this is where we get a cool little effect where they go, okay, pause it here. And then we get the narration voices over by the angels. It's like, okay, this is the guy that you need to tail effectively. And this is George Bailey. And he's talking about a big, massive suitcase. He's like, I want to go traveling and I want one of those suitcases this size. It's a great introduction into his rapport with the town.
Yeah.
He's buying a suitcase from just this random shop, and the shopkeep owner knows him. He is hiding a present from his old boss with his name on the suitcase for him to go off traveling. That's just explains it. Like, you don't need to go a massive leap of faith from realizing that he basically stayed the same way from when he was younger all the way up until now. Always a selfless act is George, and now you're like thinking, okay, brilliant, he's gonna do it, he's gonna get his wish. At this time I think they're trying to portray him as like a 20-year-old kind of, he's just finished college or whatever, he's gone off to university. He looks about 45 in this, and he's trying to portray like a 20-year-old, like just finished college.
Oh yeah. I did wonder if they aged him down, and
And in fairness, they actually do age him up in this.
Yeah,
they do.
It's very good.
So they do kind of nice, cool makeup effects effectively on it. It's really good. We then have George thanking his previous boss for giving him the suitcase, and going back and doing that thing with the lighter, with that snap lighter thing. It's one of those Make-A-Wish clickers, effectively, with the flame on it.
What does he say? He would be a millionaire or something, is it?
Wish for $1 million.
Hot damn. So again, that's kind of like showing you that this character has a continuous streak throughout the whole entire core of his life. He's basically this fanciful dreamer of a character. And it doesn't need that much explanation. Guess how much we're into the film? Let's say 9 minutes into the film.
And we know exactly who he is.
And also that it's a fun film. Well, is it? Is it a fun film? That's the thing. It's a great setup. What could possibly go wrong for George? He's just too fun-loving.
Yeah. Poor George.
We then get a part where he's like, okay, I need a taxi. I'm going on the next train out. And then we see the bit of a slutty one coming around, trying to talk up all the guys. Hey, George. Oh, hey. And what are the names of the cop and the taxi driver?
Oh, Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie. That's where they got it from.
I got so confused. I got so excited over that.
I never got.
Hey, Bert.
Hey, Bert, Ernie. Yeah, so Bert and Ernie. So again, it's that's where the names from the Sesame Street thing came from.
Didn't know that.
Bert and Ernie. There you go. That's a little bit of filmography knowledge for you there. So these two guys that are on screen at the moment.
Are you just guessing?
No, that is true. That is true. I know things about this film. I know things about this film. George is wanted to get a taxi to go back to his house to have one last meal, effectively. He's planning a trip away, needs to get on the next train out of here, and his dad, as you see, wants to convince him to stay in the old family business. The brother, you get to see, is basically a dirty rascal and starts chasing around the maid. Is she a maid? Is she
He slaps her in the ass, but took out like the slap sound.
Damn right.
Oh, brilliant.
I love this whole rapport that the whole family had together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just as actors, I thought this whole dynamic that they had going on was fantastic. It was so smooth. It flowed so well. It was like they were a real family. They knew each other forever. It was brilliant.
And it was a great... It felt really family orientated as well.
And the way they're talking over each other and they're actually eating.
Yes, right? Sometimes you see them like get a spoon up to their mouths and start like, oh no, another conversation.
Yeah, talking with their mouth full, and it just felt normal.
And then like what's she called? Anna was the maid.
The maid. I don't know. Is it a servant? What do you call it now?
But I love the fact she was
the
really
live-in maid.
I didn't expect it. I thought her to be like, yes ma'am, but she was like she was part of the family.
Hey,
totally
have you ever see? This is a really good example of misinterpretation of what servants at that time. You even watch Gone with the Wind, which is genuinely based in the South with genuine slaves, and even the black maids in that are given sass. Like they are a big character. Actually, the first black person even to win an Oscar was Hattie something. Forgot her last name. Hattie Davis, I believe. Maybe that's Hattie. But what I'm saying is that like any film that I've basically Hattie McDaniel, that's it, just to get that right. But anytime there's like I've ever seen these like black maids in it, they're always like sassy. Like in this, there's a really cool comedy scene where the dad and George are trying to have a chat, and George is basically like, why don't you pull up a seat and join in on the conversation? It's like, I don't want it. It's boring anyway. It just walks out.
Then at the end, it's like, did you catch all of that? I heard.
Yeah, she's at the other side of the door. So it's cool. I love it. It's a cool little dynamic that all of these characters have. There's literally not a bad bone in all of their body. Even the father understands his role in the town. They obviously live in this big nice house, yet he understands his responsibility to provide houses for people at reasonable rates, instead of allowing them or having them in the slums that Mr. Potter, the banker, has made for him. So the way that the town is situated is that Mr. Potter has built all these crappy little rental apartments, and then the Baileys have set up a system for people to actually get into houses, even though they technically can't afford it here and there sometimes. But that's...
What I don't understand is, what is Potter's hold over the Baileys? Why does he have such a sway in the bonds? What is it?
Because he's a member of the board. He's actually a member of the board on the building society.
Oh, okay. So he's not actually like an owner or a investor.
But he owns shares. I think he owns like a
Okay.
45%, and that is important later on. So you're already seeing the bad consequences of capitalism, basically. You have this nice person who's trying to do nice things for the town, and then you see this capitalist in a wheelchair stealing people's livelihoods just to make money.
Mm-hmm. Sound familiar?
Sound familiar?
Mm.
So we get already an we already get an introduction to the brother going off to it's like the graduation ball or something like that.
Yeah. It's no, it's you're right. It's graduation ball.
Yeah, so they're like the way that it's working is that George Bailey is wanting to go to university. His brother is graduating. And there's only enough money. The family only have enough money to send George to go to university. They don't have enough money to send his brother to go there. So the brother is meant to take over the business.
Yeah, exactly. His brother's supposed to take over the building. So George already has like a system in place for them all to go. So he's even
exactly. So
George
is just like, but no, don't. Let's not change the plan here. I understand that you want me to take over. It's like, look, he's been working there basically the same amount of time that I was working there when I started, even older than when I started. And he's like, yeah, but you were born old. You were born old, George.
Great line.
Dad.
Great line.
So it's, again, he's like born with this responsibility over and over again. His brother, the responsibility of saving someone's life over and over again. And George knows that that's what he should be doing effectively. George knows that this is going away and fulfilling, like you can actually feel the guilt. And this is what I love about an actor of this caliber, is that if you can actually write something really good, so many films have been lost and failed because the actor couldn't portray emotions well enough for the audience to read them. And you, huh?
What?
Who are you talking about?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire?
Hey,
Kirsten Stewart syndrome. He's Kirsten Stewart syndrome. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Fair enough. I'll give it to you. It's like he's no Jimmy Stewart. But that's... Jimmy Stewart could convey the emotion of being in that situation so well that you hung on his every word. And you could feel the guilt in his voice when he was like, but I have all this planned. I have the tickets. I'm gone. Goodbye. Please stop this. Don't try and convince me to stay, Dad.
And that's a very good point, actually, of hanging on his every word, because normally when I'm watching a movie, I'm like, I'd be sketching or just messing around, pottering, doing bits and fidgeting or whatever. I paid attention to him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You forget to watch it.
I don't mean that literally you forget to watch a movie. But when you say you're zoned into a film, like I totally didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to pick up my phone. Like that's a big deal, man. If I don't want to pick up my phone when I'm watching a movie, I feel like I'm there with him,
Even to look something up.
What a sad day. What a sad day. That's when entertainment has actually died. It's like, hey, if something makes me want to put down my phone, I'll that's a good piece of entertainment.
But I say it again. Like all the characters, like there's very few movies nowadays where you look at all, like even from Mr. Potter, that you fucking hate him but you like them.
But I'll put it to you this way: this is a time when an actor could play several different roles and be several different people because they acted really well. You'll watch Rear Window, and I will encourage you to watch, after watching this, watch Vertigo. His character in Vertigo is completely different than what his character in this is. There's a movie called Harvey that he does. It's about an invisible rabbit that's his imaginary friend. It's fucking amazing. Watch it. It's called Harvey. But all of these characters that he plays, you literally hang on every word. And, Grace Kelly, same thing. These are actors that speak with their faces and speak with their speak with their voices, fair enough. But you know what I mean? Like, you need to be watching them to see all of this, to get the tone of the film, to get the tone of the scene.
Like all these League of Actors, back then, you had to be able to act to be an actor. Like now, did you see every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry acting? These were guys, man, that were just like fucking in another fucking league of acting. I call it old Hollywood.
Old wood.
Yeah. Well,
so
whatever. Then.
At this point, we come to George being like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go off and head off to the party. I'm gonna head off to the graduation. I'm gonna sitting around here, feeling sorry for myself, basically. So he heads off to the graduation, and everybody knows him. Again, he's known throughout the land. I think one of his old friends comes up to him, and this is cool. So small little things like this in films is what I admire, and that they don't do it often enough anymore because everything is over explained. So you watch a film like this, the guy that does the ee-yaw, such an annoying thing in a film, and you're like, oh god, I hate that guy. Every time he does it, it's like, oh, I remember that guy, because he's basically not in the film, and at the very end he saves the day. I don't know if you remember, but and that ee-yaw is a part of it, and you're like, what a cool little. Again, we're kind of into another thread. We're knitting a jumper here, people. In film terms, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of intertwining things, but it's introduced to you in different ways at different times. There's flashbacks. There's cool little scenes up in the sky. There's a character being introduced by these common tropes that they do. So you're kind of taken along with the story in a natural way. You find out that this guy is basically a big timer, and you know he's plenty of go get him in a lot of spunk is what they would say in the day.
Yeah.
A lot of jizz in that guy's balls, huh? No?
Moxie.
Am I using that term right? Moxie. You got a lot of moxie. Chutzpah.
You got a lot of moxie, kid. You got a lot of moxie. Hey.
Moxie. Hey, kid, you got a lot of moxie. What is moxie? I don't know, but it sounds delicious. So we get the slutty one coming along again and going, hey, George!
Don't call her the slutty one, please.
She's the slutty one because at the end, she's a bit of a hooker. That's what I'm saying.
Call her the adventurous girl.
The adventurous girl! That's just another term for slut. Or, what do they call him on Twitch? A thought. She's a total thought. That hoe over there. No, okay, she's a respectable lady of the time. Actually, in fairness, compared to girls nowadays, yeah, she's like prude. She's totally a frigid. Do people still say that nowadays? Frigid?
Do you know?
So we get a lovely introduction to Mary. Hey, Mary, Mary! I love the way he says Mary. Is it a coincidence that Mary and it's Merry Christmas? No. Mary?
Does he say Mary?
No, it's her name. Mary.
I know.
But the way he says it says like Mary. Hi, Mary. No? Maybe that's just...
Yeah, I just thought it was Latin.
What do you want, Amy?
What do you want? That's a little bit like... that's Humphrey Bogart. Hey, you want the moon?
No. Is it?
Not yeah. Well, I don't know any of the lines.
Anyway.
I actually don't like Casablanca.
Never seen it.
Yeah, well, we will never have to watch that film. But there is another film with Humphrey Bogart in it that we will be watching. So we get the introduction to Mary, and they get lovingly introduced by I think it's like, hey, George, I want you to introduce you to my cousin. Yeah. No, it's his cousin, isn't it, or something like that? And there's a guy standing there, and he's like, talking. What's he talking about? Something nerdy to her, and she's like looking off at the distance, be like, I don't fucking care.
Do you have that guy on screen? Does anybody know who that guy is?
No, like the nerdy guy. Let me see if I can get him up on screen.
Know who he is?
No,
is that?
Ron Howard.
A shot of him.
No, I don't have it. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can get a shot of him.
It looks like Jerry Lewis.
Nope.
Oh,
Okay.
let me see if I can get a shot of him.
There he is.
Oh, God, she's a beautiful lady. So this is like old school beauty. Look at those cheekbones. Mwah! Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. This guy on the right, basically, and he's all the freckles. Who is that?
That's the guy I'm talking about. I can't see if you have it up yet. Sorry, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, does he look familiar to anyone?
He kind of does, I guess. Who is it?
Alfalfa.
Oh, really? The guy that
Yep.
looks...
The
Ah!
original Little Rascals.
Holy
The original
shit.
little... And that's not really that far off, to be honest with you. What was that, like 1930s or something like that?
Yeah.
Little Rascals.
And he says
Oh,
the best line ever.
With the
The
little...
man
With
says,
the thing on his
Yeah.
hair?
Yeah.
That guy? Yeah! That's cool.
the
Hey,
guy.
says to him,
nice little
You
trivia
wanna be
knowledge. I didn't know that.
says, hey, shh.
Chipper!
Brilliant.
So, the guy on the left is wanted to introduce George to Mary, and they've already kind of been introduced for years, but Mary's been off, I don't know, doing something somewhere else, I guess. She went to a different college, I think, and now she's back in town, sowing them seeds of social. Instantly, they hit it off. They're basically in each other's arms, and it's a lovely little moment for them to do a little bit of slow dance that turns into, hey everybody, we're going to have to do the Charleston. I love the Charleston.
So do
I think that dance, I tried to do it, go to dancing class for like a number of weeks, and not only do I have two left feet, I also have two left feet that somebody else owns, so I can't even control them. And they're in shoes that are backwards, and the floor is all wobbly. You know what? I'm kind of one of those dancers that does a bit of a dance and then thinks about the dance, and I'm like, oh no, I'm screwing myself up. I overthink it.
Jesus, Jamie.
No, have you ever tried to dance, Darren?
I'll teach you how to dance.
Will you?
I got you.
Oh, thanks, bro.
Sort you out.
I
I didn't say dance good, but I'll teach you to dance.
I can teach you to dance. Oh, you can teach me to do the Macarena.
Let's do it.
Hey, Macarena. Hi.
So
There's
they
a
fall in
part
the pool.
where, no, it's just before that part where George and Mary are dancing, doing the jives and stuff like that, and doing the hokey pokey, and they twirled around. And then a guy comes out of nowhere and is like, hey, I hear that. So to Alfalfa, hey, so George, you notice that there's a pool under here? And he's like, yeah, what of it? Hey, do you know that George is dancing with Mary right on the kind of lip of that pool? And he's like, yeah. He's like, and do you know the button for that to open it is right over there? And I have the key. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? He's like clearly wanted to just, like, what I like about it is he doesn't come off as a bully. He just comes off as someone going, oh, this is going to be hilarious to watch. Yeah. Just a bit of fun. Could cause someone to probably get a concussion and fall in and die, but it's early 1940s. There's no health and safety or anything. I'm surprised they have a key to lock the thing. There's not just a big button you can press.
Like I was when they were saying like the pool is underneath your man says to them, thanks for building us a pool underneath this.
Yeah,
saves
they say that.
I was like, I didn't realize they had pools under the gym.
Not after this event.
Yeah, that's probably when they died out. That place still exists, but I'd say it died out after that movie.
Now there's just punji sticks underneath. Open at your own peril. Ah! It's like a Mortal Kombat stage.
Yeah.
Just jump down onto it. So the pool opens up, but George and Mary are just so compatible with each other that they don't even notice the pool opening up, and nobody cares to warn them. They're just so delighted with the dancing that's going on. They're dancing on the precipice. Dun, 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 and everybody's like, yeah! And George is like, wow, I think they like us. Better not look behind us because that'll be really troubling. And then everybody has a good old time. There's no ill will everybody has fun, and the dancing is fabulous. They basically fall in the pool, and everybody has a good old time. But what I like is that just when everybody jumps in, the guy that gave Alfalfa the key then just looks at him and goes, and they both just jump in the pool and afterwards. So you could tell.
I seem to think that was your man's plan all along. He was just going to open the pool. But he just saw this guy pining and went, hey, now I got motive. I don't have to be the one to turn the key, but this is what I wanted all along.
You know he's going to be like graduating to be a businessman. It's like the end of Grease, and it's like, and this guy grew up to be Donald Trump. And this is a little Donald Trump. And this boy grew up to be the real Alfalfa. I've never seen... You know what alfalfa is? Is it like a herb?
It's a wheat, sort of a grass.
Wheatgrass? Alfalfa? Darren, do you have anything to add on the wheatgrass? Wheatgrass?
No, I'll take away the grass. The wheat I'm okay with.
You're okay with the wheat?
Okay with the wheat, dude. Not the grass, though.
No wheatgrass. Cool. So, we get on to the near end of Act 1. We've summed up George in a gorgeous way. We've only shown him in good light at this point. Nothing's going to get this guy down. The lovely moon sequence that everybody kind of parodies effectively. Wonderfully done.
From the start of this to where he goes off in the end of the scene, this whole scene is... Everything about it is fucking beautifully written, is funny. It's just weird, but it's so good. It's so fun. Like, nowhere in this world should James be...
Stop calling him James. You're freaking me out. It's Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart should never, ever sing. But it worked for this because he's not like... As I said to you before, if I never seen him before and then see...
Are you talking about where they're going? By the moonlight, by the moon of the...
But it works so well.
They're supposed to be drunk though, right?
No.
Oh.
No. They're drunk on love. Right?
Oh, okay.
They're under 21, Derry. Jesus.
Shocking.
But he says to her, like, you were like 17.
Yeah, you were like, but that means you were 17 last year. Well done, Jimmy. And you're going to university, are you? Tell me about that one. So they have a little bit of a play, and there's a part where the guy, so Jimmy Stewart is obviously trying to buck up the courage to kiss her. Yeah. There's a guy in the on his porch listening in, and he basically, eventually he goes, will you just shut up and damn well kiss her? And he's like, well, I didn't tell you to listen on in. He's like, youth is wasted on the young. And he kind of walks in.
And I love that whole sequence as well, because I think that's really authentic as well. Because when you're a teenager, you're just walking along in a couple talking absolute shite. Yes. And you just know, like, older people are like, you're idiots. You're just idiots, like.
It's one of those things where you're like, when you get older, you can hear teenagers talk, and you're like,
you're idiots.
I hope I never said those things when I was that age. Jesus Christ.
We did. We definitely did.
We were probably worse back then.
No record. Sorry, young people of today.
Before smartphones.
We get a little bit of sexual play at this point. After the moon bit, we kind of see that Mary has this kind of dressing gown on because all of her clothes are soaked, and Jimmy Stewart stands on like the tail of the the little string basically of the
robe. Yeah,
and it nearly falls off, and she's like, train, and then there's all a little bit of flirtiness going on there. This is where the old man basically is like, will you just kiss her? And then we get the lovely moon bit. What a gorgeous moment. And I think it's like it's over and done with before you even realize it. Did you get that? Like, it was like really quick for such an iconic moment. It's
slapped him in the face, like.
It's done really well.
It's just really nice little moments.
Exactly.
But this is where Forrest Gump got the whole throwing rocks through windows from this movie as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where I got the whole scene. That's why I know there's another in Forrest Gump, but it was such an iconic picture of them standing in front of the house and throwing stones that it was not written for Forrest Gump from this, but they use inspiration from it.
Well, I believe that's not until... Yeah, so they do that rock throwing, and that's the house that they basically end up living in. They're making wishes, effectively. And he wishes to go off traveling, and then she wishes for something that you don't find out until later, basically. But she gets in the nude then. She gets in the nude and hides the shrubbery. And he's like, wow, situation like this comes along once in a lifetime, basically. You know.
I'll call the cops. Well, the cops are down that way. I'll call your mother. Well, my mother's up the block.
Yeah. Because maybe I should sell tickets.
I was like, where is this coming from? Oh my God.
Right? It is one of those kind of cool moments that you think, wow, I think it's one of those when we think people in the past were basically barbarians that were like prudes and had no sense of, innuendo or anything. But at the end of the day, they were pretty good. They stuck it in there. And then flash forward after that.
No pun intended.
Oh. To the bank. Or what I should say is the building society. Oh no, sorry. We've skipped a very important part.
I was going to say the dad, isn't it?
Yeah.
The dad, so he gets word. So after she gets all naked and everything, the taxi driver, Bert, I think Bert is the taxi driver, or is Ernie the taxi driver?
Ernie, I think, isn't it?
Ernie's taxi driver.
Ernie's the taxi driver. So Ernie pulls up and says, hey, quickly, your father. And then it turns out that he's had a stroke. So the dad has had a stroke, and that means that, being the responsible person he is,
yeah, he has to
George has to step on in and take over the building society.